And our topic for today, as voted by my Twitter friends, was writing and life. And this is my life. Yay! As you can see, when I'm writing, I have quite a bit to compete with. Lots of different things looking for my attention. My 2 babies and my husband, and finding the time to balance my writing and my family can be a bit of a challenge, but we do what we can, don't we? I find that giving myself a bit of a schedule, I know mornings are generally a good time because the kids are sleeping, so I'll wake up early in the morning and that's when I get my lovely coffee. And I sit down with my characters and I write for a little bit. And then when the kids wake up, I generally have to kind of take a break. And then other than that, I just kind of work in whatever time I can. What I would like to know, for those of you with families or without families, maybe you have pets at home, or maybe you just have a crazy work schedule or whatever. How do you figure out and balance your writing and your personal life? Or what are your tips and tricks? Because I can always use some help with this crazy. Let me know. Comment below. Once you're done, make sure you take a chance and listen to this week's author confession. My guest is Alexandra Van Horn. She is the author of Strange, a manuscript. It is her work in progress. She is currently getting it all drafted and shiny so she can get querying. So interested editors and publishers, make sure you are listening careful. Alexandra, can you tell us a little bit about your novel?
Yes. Like you just said, it's called Strange, a Manuscript, and it actually is the story of a fictional world called Strange, and there's a main character named Rook that has to break this curse called the Broken, which is caused by this king called the Broken King. But it turns out that this whole story of Rook and Strange is fictional and was created by an author named Alan, who tragically passed away because he committed suicide. And the story picks up from his funeral, where his widow is trying to reconcile that he's gone and trying to pick up the pieces of her life with her son Cam. And it turns out that the villain from the story, the Broken King, kidnaps her son Cam and takes him into the world of Strange, and it's actually a real world. And she has to assume the role of protagonist to fix the story, get it back on track, and to not only heal herself, but heal Strange as well. So yeah, it's a little bit of fantasy, a little bit of magical realism, and just a tiny dash of horror too, because I couldn't help myself.
Very cool. It sounds like you've got some pretty interesting elements in there. What was the hardest scene for you to write?
Without giving too many spoilers away, their ending by far is the most emotionally draining part of the story. I can't say specifically why, but the main character, her name's Becca, and she has to really dig deep with a lot of her emotions and overcome a huge amount of obstacles to not only defeat this villain, she also has to discover a lot of really hard truths about herself and her healing process. So it definitely stabbed me in the feels a lot.
The feels.
Because she has to wrap up the story, and while wrapping up the story, she's coming to terms with a lot of her feelings of loss, and she realizes that she's been trash compacting her feelings. So it was very emotionally draining to write.
It sounds like it. You mentioned that you were editing. Do you have any tips or tricks for people who might be starting their own editing process?
Oh, definitely. I would say the whole killing and murdering your darlings, that is so true. Don't be afraid to start something over from scratch if what you wrote the first time doesn't feel right. I ran into a huge problem where I kept being like, no, I wrote it this way in the first draft. I can't deviate from that because that's the way I wrote it. And then I realized that part's not working. And if it's not working, there's no point in keeping that. There's no point in having an emotional attachment to something that's not going to serve the story for the better in the end. So don't be afraid to completely rip things apart and piece them back together, because that's what I'm doing right now in my second draft. I'm just taking my story and hacking it to bits in the parts where it's not working and starting from the ground up again. And it is probably one of the smartest decisions I've ever made. So just murder your darlings and be okay with it.
You had mentioned that you had kind of wanted to share with authors about your own kind of publishing journey and some of the things you learned. Would you share with us?
Oh yeah. I have learned so much about how important the online writing community is. And like, for example, this experience of getting to do this is because I'm really active on Twitter, and I love following other authors and publishers and editors and just trying to get as involved with the writing world as possible. So the one thing I always recommend for anyone who's trying to learn more about the publishing world and trying to get as much experience under their belt as they can is don't be afraid to reach out to other authors and just try to strike up a conversation, because at the very least, they'll tell you to buzz off, and at the very best, you're going to gain so much more knowledge from people. I had it the other day where I was completely stuck on something, so I just quick tweeted out, guys, what should I do about this thing that I'm stuck on? And so many people came out of the woodwork and are like, try this, try this, try this. And I ended up like in 10 seconds being like, duh, that's what I was supposed to do. So just reach out, because there are so many nice people out there that are going to be there to help you with your publishing journey. So that's the big thing I always encourage, is just talk to everyone.
I second that, absolutely. And I am a huge advocate of the Twitter writing world. If you ever talk to me about writing, I would say probably my first piece of advice, which sounds really weird because it's writing advice, but I'm like, get on Twitter and find these people, because they really are just amazing. Speaking of Twitter, you run your very own Twitter event, which I have participated in, and I love it. And I think that you should tell people about it.
Definitely. So it's called Writer's Patch, hashtag Writer's Patch if you want to search for it on Twitter. I host it every Sunday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we just talk about whatever writing topics we feel like doing for that week. I always run a poll and just see what people are interested in. And some weeks we're talking about, writing in general. We are talking about how to write a villain, how to write a main character. In the past, we've talked about the emotional aspects of writing, like how you feel drained sometimes, or the stress of it, or sometimes that feeling that authors get of not being good enough. And sometimes we're just goofy, and I come up with the most wacky writing questions I can think of and force people to answer them. So it's just a chance for us to all take a break, relax, and encourage each other, because a lot of times writers think that writing is a very solitude kind of experience, and you're supposed to be like in a dimly lit room with the one light bulb swinging above your head. And writing has become such a communal thing, and I want to encourage people to always come together, because that's how you're going to learn, is by talking to each other. So that's what Writer's Patch is. It's our chance to come together, take a break, and just let your writing grow.
Excellent. So let us know, where can we find you?
Oh yeah. So you can follow me on Twitter. My name on Twitter is @PatchworkNerd. Also, you can search hashtag Writer's Patch. How the discussion works is I'll use that hashtag in a question, and if you search Writer's Patch, the questions will pop up, or you can look at my Twitter feed and the questions will be in there. Those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
I have one last question for you, and actually it's not really a question, it's a request. Would you ask my viewers a question for them to answer in the comments below?
Ooh, yes. Okay, so I normally write magical realism, fantasy, and horror, but secretly I have always kind of wanted to write a young adult romantic comedy. Ooh. And I have ideas brewing in my head for that, but it's very outside my normal genre. So I guess my question is, if people had to pick one genre outside of what they normally write that they could just, have a guilty pleasure chance to write in, what would that genre be? And if they have an idea of what that story would be in that genre, what would the story be?
Ooh, I love it. Thank you, Alexandra, for talking with me and for giving such a great question. We will make sure to follow you and find you and connect with you on Twitter so we can build this writing community. Thank you so much, and just have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, and you have a great day too.
So, what do you think of Alexandra's novel?
Really good.
Really good? I think it's really good too. The other things that we really like and we enjoy listening to together are our quick pitches. And we've got a couple really good ones coming up, so make sure you listen to them.
They were like friends with benefits, but without the friends part. Kel Roberts had a flaming hot romance with Damien Wild when they were in high school. Once they parted ways, Kel always thought that would be it until he catches a glimpse of Damien at a college party. They pick up right where they left off in high school, but Kel wants more this time. As Kel and Damien give dating more of a chance, Kel finds himself falling for Damien. Things look up until an opportunity for an out-of-state internship jeopardizes their chances for a happily ever after. Kel will have to decide between his relationship and his future.
Just when Grace finally thinks she's settled into her new boarding school, new student Damien turns her world upside down. Now she's racing against the clock to find a reason worth living or die trying. Saving Grace is a work-in-progress young adult novel that focuses on themes of bullying and self-acceptance in a tale of hardship, love, forgiveness, and second chances.
Hey, my name is Emily Matthews, and I've been asked to do a pitch for my young adult book on Amazon called Gravesend. Prim Victorian Monica Sewell is sent to a derelict mental hospital when her inner demon starts publicly attacking her. When the hospital employees accidentally place her with Gravesend Asylum's most infamous resident, Philip, the finicky protagonist Monica realizes she must rely on his protection or be eaten alive by the doctors and the guards who run the place. In a hair-raising attempt to escape the place for good, Monica learns that true love and courage can defeat any demon.
Well, that's about it for this week. It's time for me to go spend some time with these crazies and maybe read a bedtime story or two. I hope you have a wonderful day. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment below. We'd love to hear your answers. And of course, if you haven't already, checked out Author Confession on Twitter. We've got a great new month coming up with March, and it's going to be fun.
Hey, good night from the Sullivan family, and
Happy writing!
happy writing!
Happy writing!
Iron Green. He said, what? What's your face?
I heard that.